The twin suns of Zithra scorched the barren plains with a merciless heat, their light bouncing off the cracked, ochre soil in harsh, unrelenting waves. Princess Leora Valen had known privilege, opulence, and power, but all of that was gone now. She stumbled across the wasteland, her golden hair matted with dust and her silk gown tattered from the fall down the cliffs of the Glass Ridge. The royal decree had been merciless. She was to be banished for crimes she did not commit, accused of conspiring with the enemy during the border skirmishes that had left the outer colonies in chaos. No guards accompanied her. No one remained to defend her honor. Even her younger brother, Prince Kalen, had looked at her with cold eyes, repeating the words that had shattered her world. "You are no longer my sister. You are exiled. If you survive, it will be by the mercy of the wastelands, not the crown." Leora fell to her knees, the heat searing her skin through the thin layers of her gown. Her body ached, hunger clawed at her stomach, and thirst made her throat raw. She whispered a prayer to the forgotten gods of Zithra, hoping for a miracle she didn't believe would come. Then she saw him. At first, it was only a shadow on the horizon, a dark figure against the blinding glare of the twin suns. Her eyes squinted, heart thudding against her ribs. Was it another scavenger? One of the desert raiders who preyed on the weak? Or worse, a hunter sent to finish what the royal court had started? The stranger approached slowly, and as he drew nearer, Leora could see his features. He was human, tall and lean, but with the faint shimmer of technology woven into his suit. The armor-like exosuit glinted in the sunlight, and a faint hum of energy radiated from it. His eyes, strikingly blue, locked onto hers with an intensity that made her shiver. "You shouldn't be here," he said, voice low but steady, carrying a tone that suggested command and caution all at once. "This is no place for a princess or anyone else." I am no longer a princess," she croaked, her lips cracked. "I am a castaway, a disgrace. Leave me. Let me die here." He shook his head, crouching slightly to level himself with her gaze. "I can't do that. Not for you. Not for anyone. You need shelter, water, and medical attention now." "You don't even know me," she muttered, but her voice was weak. She had long since surrendered to exhaustion. "I know enough," he replied simply. "I see someone who's alive, and that's enough for me." He introduced himself as Kale Aaron, a wanderer and scavenger from the outer colonies of Zithra, though he carried tech that hinted at ties with far-off human settlements beyond the twin suns. Kale moved with efficiency, scanning the environment for threats while gently lifting Leora onto a hovering stretcher. The hum of his exosuit carried her through the wasteland, shielding her from the harsh light and the venomous winds that tore through the jagged plains. As they traveled, Leora's mind reeled. She wanted to ask questions: why him? Why help her? But the weakness in her limbs made speech laborious. Kale seemed to understand, saying nothing until they reached a hidden oasis, tucked away in the shadow of jagged rock spires. The oasis was small, verdant, and surreal against the desolate backdrop of Zithra. A pool of clear water reflected the twin suns, and strange luminescent flora clung to the rocks, giving the place a quiet, otherworldly glow. Kale gently laid her down and administered a healing serum that coursed warmth through her veins. "It'll take time," he said, "but you'll be all right." For the first time since her banishment, Leora felt tears slip down her face, not of fear, not of despair, but of relief. She was alive. Days turned into weeks. Kale tended to her injuries, scavenged food from the wastelands, and shared tales of the colonies he had visited. He told her of the Aurora Belt, a cluster of human settlements thriving on renewable energy harvested from the sun, and of the Rift, a dangerous expanse where nomadic raiders hunted for tech and resources. Leora listened, absorbing each story, each lesson in survival. In return, she shared her own knowledge of the royal court, politics, and the complex machinery of governance. Kale listened, often silent, but sometimes interjecting with questions that made her smile despite the circumstances. Slowly, the princess who had been cast away transformed, her despair replaced with determination, her vulnerability with resilience. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of crimson and violet, Kale spoke. "Leora, you have strength. I can see it in your eyes. But you've been left to die by those who should protect you. Do you want to stay here, hiding forever, or do you want to reclaim what was stolen from you?" Leora stared at the reflection of the twin suns in the pool and clenched her fists. I cannot go back as a helpless victim. I must prove who I am. Not for them, but for myself. Kale nodded, a faint smile forming. "Then we move at dawn. I know a place, a shipyard where we can get you off-planet if need be. But if you want justice, there are ways to fight without dying in the attempt." The journey to the shipyard was perilous. They crossed the rift, avoiding raiders and navigating treacherous terrain where the ground itself seemed alive, pulsating with strange energy currents. Along the way, Kale trained Leora, teaching her to wield energy weapons, use exosuit tech, and navigate using starlight rather than compasses. In the harsh crucible of survival, a bond formed. It was not just trust. It was a partnership forged in fire, mutual dependence that transcended fear. Leora found herself admiring Kale's resourcefulness, his unwavering moral code, and the quiet intensity that hid a haunted past. And Kale, for his part, began to see the princess not as royalty or as a charge, but as an equal, a warrior in the making. One night, while they rested atop a cliff overlooking the glowing rifts, Leora confessed, "I never thought I'd see the stars again, not like this. I thought my life was over the moment I was exiled." Kale glanced at her, the starlight glinting in his eyes. "Life doesn't end when others betray you. It ends when you stop trying. And, trust me, we're just getting started." When they finally reached the hidden shipyard, Leora's determination crystallized. The shipyard was abandoned, filled with dormant starships left over from the first wave of colonization. Among them was a sleek vessel, the Erebus, its engines intact and ready for flight. Kale guided her inside, and together they initiated the ship's systems. But their plans did not go unnoticed. Sensors triggered alarms across the rift, and within hours, a squad of royal enforcers arrived, led by none other than Prince Kalen. He had tracked her exile, determined to enforce the crown's decree with lethal force. "Leora," Kalen's voice boomed across the shipyard, "you will return to the palace. This rebellion of yours ends now." She stepped forward, the twin suns of Zithra setting behind her, casting long shadows. "I am not your prisoner, Kalen. I am not a child to be ordered around. I am Leora Valen, and I choose my own fate." Kale stepped beside her, exosuit activated, energy weapon humming. "You will not touch her." The ensuing skirmish was fierce. Energy blasts lit the sky as the shipyard became a battlefield. But Kale and Leora fought with precision and strategy honed over weeks in the wasteland. Kalen's forces, expecting a helpless princess, were thrown into chaos by her skill and resolve. In the end, Kalen was forced to retreat, humiliated and furious, as Leora and Kale prepared the Erebus for launch. As the ship ascended, leaving the desert world behind, Leora stood at the observation deck, watching Zithra shrink into the distance. Her heart swelled, not with vengeance, but with hope. She had been left to die, cast aside like a broken relic, Yet here she was, alive and free. And beside her was someone who had seen her not as a princess or a pawn, but as a person worth saving. Cale joined her, hands tucked into the pockets of his exosuit. "Where to?" he asked, voice soft but teasing. "Somewhere where the stars are free, and people aren't judged by the crowns they wear or the mistakes they didn't make," she replied.
Cale smirked.
"I know just the place." And so, the Erebus sailed through the void, carrying a princess who had been left for dead and a stranger who had changed her fate. Leora had been banished, betrayed, and broken, but she had found strength in the most unlikely place. In the endless expanse of space, she discovered that freedom, courage, and a new destiny were hers for the taking. For the first time in her life, Leora smiled, not as a princess of a kingdom that had abandoned her, but as a human being, alive, unbound, and ready to define her own story. Ending reflection. The twin suns of Zithra were far behind them, but their heat had left a mark, a reminder that life could be cruel. Yet, in that cruelty, Leora had found resilience. She had learned that fate was not given, it was seized. With Cale by her side, she realized that survival was only the beginning. Adventure, discovery, and perhaps love awaited in the stars. She had been left to die and had instead found a life worth living, one she could never have imagined before.